All right, Amy, I know we could talk for hours about all that, but I want to get to you. I want to get to this audit and share with people, just some ideas to think about as they're traveling or on the move or on the go, anywhere in the world. So, what I want to find out from you is what does your day normally look like?
Um, it definitely varies a bit depending on where I am, obviously, and whether it's a travel day or it's not a travel day. Right now, we've been in the same place for a couple weeks, and so I probably get up around 8:30 or 9, depending on what's going on, and eat breakfast. Usually have oatmeal or granola and yogurt, something like that. And then start working usually, and often spend, the better part of the day at my computer, possibly with some breaks to go do something with people that I'm staying with, or, just to get outside or do something else. But I definitely have a lot of really stationary days, and days that I intend to, get out and go for a walk, or there's a treadmill downstairs where I'm staying, but doesn't always happen. In fact, recently, the majority of the time, it does not happen. And then I usually stay up, eat a late dinner, stay up pretty late. So that's a day in a nutshell.
Okay, so then, and I think you touched on this a little bit. What do you feel is really working for you in there? And what do you feel really challenged by or stressed by that you would like to optimize?
Mm-hmm. I guess what's working well is that I, really make an effort to get enough sleep.
Mm-hmm.
I'd say I always, except for very rare occasions, I get like 7 to 8 hours every night, usually at least 8.
Awesome.
But the funny thing is, I often still feel tired. So I think, well, what's wrong with this picture? I'm getting plenty of sleep, or I feel like I'm getting plenty of sleep, but I still don't always have a lot of energy. So energy is definitely something that's, important, and I would like to have more of.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would say probably doing more regular, well, actually, I want all of it. I want to be doing more meditation. I want to be doing more exercise. And the eating is an issue too. Right now we're staying with my parents. My mom's making all this food that,
Yes, yeah.
I remember from growing up, and that I don't get when I'm abroad. And also whoever you're staying with, I've been noticing that it's a challenge to show up at someone's house and be like, oh, sorry, I don't eat this, and this,
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a challenge too, sometimes to follow the eating principles that I want to follow, but still be a gracious guest and still get to enjoy the local food.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you touched on a lot in there.
A lot there, I know.
Let me just jump in where my brain is right now. I mean, kind of what I approach, in terms of staying with people and eating meals is if I'm not consulted on the menu, I eat what's on the menu. And so if somebody asks me like, oh, is there anything you don't eat? It's just like, well, you've just allowed the floodgates to be opened, and I will tell you. I'll be nice and polite and like, I try to really not eat this, or yeah, I try to focus on this, or yeah, I don't really eat that. It's interesting because a lot of times that conversation can kick up energy for the other person, where they're just like, are you telling me I'm not eating healthy or anything like that? So it can be an interesting conversation that I've had a few times. But it's just about being clear and like knowing like, no, these are my values. This is what's important to me. And if I don't eat pizza and I allow my host to like serve me pizza every night because they think I love it, and I'm not going to feel well because of it, then there's a disconnect. So you just you need to be in integrity with yourself. So. But yeah, it is a dance. The sleep sounds great. I think, in terms of the energy, it would be looking at kind of the the positive, like it's like a positive feedback loop. From when you eat your meal to then 2 or 3 hours later, how are you feeling? And then really connecting. Am I feeling alive and energetic? And what did I eat? Or am I feeling sluggish and tired, and what did I eat? combined with, we are not machines, we're not robots, and so we need breaks. We can only go for about 90 minutes or 2 hours max of focused time. So when you're working during the day, if you want to put in 8 hours, obviously you can't do that all at one time. You can't even do it in 2 blocks of 4 hours. That just really drains you. And so what I do is I actually use this program, this free thing called Time Out for the Mac that reminds me to take breaks. And you can set it for whatever schedule you want. But every 90 minutes, I'm supposed to take a 20-minute break, and that might be. And usually it's longer, but it might be eating something or meditating, exercising, or going for a walk or taking a nap, whatever. There's that quote out there. It says, "It's not that we work too hard; it's we don't recover enough." And so that's really, if we took more time throughout the day to build in these periods of rejuvenation and rest, we could be more productive throughout the day and have more energy at the end of the day. It isn't normal to want to crash at 2:30 in the afternoon. We do have these cycles. There's the day-long circadian rhythm, and then there's within the day the ultradian rhythms. And yes, maybe you'll have higher energy late morning, but it shouldn't go to the other extreme where you just want to fall asleep, at 3 o'clock for no good reason. But it is kind of like figuring out what are your natural rhythms. For you, if staying up late works for you and you don't feel like you're fighting a natural rhythm, then go with it. With all these things, whether it's food or exercise or whatever, go with what you feel is working for your body. And so, because right now I try to get to bed no later than 11. Maybe I'll get up around 6:30, and which is crazy because when I was living in LA as an actor, totally different schedule, and I never thought I'd be a morning person. But now I've found I really thrive in that kind of setting, and I'm very alert and productive in the morning, and that's sometimes when I get my best work done. So yeah, I think the energy thing is potentially tied to food, and then looking at how you can, which is a part of one of those rejuvenation. How can you break up your workday within the 90-minute span? Every 20 minutes, I also remind myself to do a 1-minute break. So it might just be closing my eyes. I could still sit at the computer. Maybe I just close my eyes. Or maybe it's like, oh, you know what? This is a good time to go get a drink of water because I haven't had a drink of water in an hour. Or I need to go to the bathroom. Maybe now's a good time, as opposed to just keep plowing through, because there's that natural tendency to just keep working. Just 5 more minutes or 10 more minutes. I'll figure this out. I'll finish this. And that, I'm still guilty of this. It turns into another hour. And then, this happens to me, every now and then where I'm just drained because I went way too long. I pushed myself. Anyone that has gone to a weekend conference, you feel it, it's just they're piling speaker after speaker after speaker, and your brain is can't do it, done, maxed out, no more. So it's the same thing on a work day, it's just finding those periods of recovery and rest and rejuvenation. Let me pause there, and because again, we covered a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense, and I think I do okay with the small breaks, getting up to get water and things like that. But it's when I get to the end of the day and I look back and I just think I've basically been at my computer, all day and all night sometimes. Not every day is like that, but there are definitely days that are like that.
Well, I definitely find ways I'll use standing desks. I'll create standing desks, or I'm seeing them now at more cafes where they have those kind of high counters, whether they're by the window or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I'll just move the chair and just work, from a standing desk, which is infinitely better than sitting. And the one thing I'll say about any of these practices, you said you're I want to do more meditation and all these other things, and whether you're just starting a practice or you want to recommit to it, it's start small. Start with the baby step. With meditation, it doesn't matter if you start with 30 seconds. Just closing your eyes, focusing on your breath. It doesn't matter. Just start. Just start there, because that's at least giving you something. And your mind is not going to be resistant to it. They're going to be 30 seconds, fine, whatever, knock yourself out. But over time, as you enjoy that and commit to the practice and build momentum, you will naturally want to increase that. So it's not where you end up; it's just where you're starting. So with any of the practices, it's finding small, easy ways to start them into your life, integrating them into your life, but not all at once. Not all 10 new things that you want to develop at once.
I know that's definitely an issue, and I was really impressed by the stats that you have on your website, about how long you've been meditating and these other things. And I am really good at doing any of the things we've talked about for, say, a month. Yeah. And then suddenly I'm not doing any of it anymore. And I fall off the wagon really easily, and sometimes I don't even realize that it's happened. Like the last month that we were in Buenos Aires, I was getting up. I got up at 7:30 every morning, sat and meditated for like 20 minutes before breakfast. Like everything was on this really solid schedule, and it just totally falls apart. So, and not for any particular reason. So I'm just curious if you have any thoughts on keeping the momentum going and moving forward and not losing, the progress that you've made over time.
I think it's... it comes back to that commitment for yourself of, is this a non-negotiable commitment for me? Because it may just be an experiment. Like, hey, for this month, I'm going to try doing this. And I'm not committed to doing it beyond that. I may enjoy it and I may want to do it longer, but maybe I'm just going to do it for this month and just see what happens. But it's really just kind of, you want to create self-concordant goals, meaning goals that you are developing. Not I'm telling you to meditate, so you start meditating, but maybe you've heard about other people meditating and why they're meditating and the benefits of it, and you're like, I would actually like to have that in my life, and then you've chosen to meditate. So, I think it's also just, to give just an extreme example, like. Last night, in fact, I thought I had somewhere to stay, and then it turned out I didn't. And so, I found this outdoor patio with a pool, and so I was kind of sleeping in the chaise lounge for a while, and then that got cool, and then so I found a stairwell, and I was sitting there for a while, and then I leaned over and kind of slept for a while. But so it was like my night and day was totally thrown off. But I knew without a shadow of a doubt, I was like, okay, come morning, come daylight, there are things I'm going to do because these are things that are going to keep me healthy. And, I was finding a hotel lobby that I could go meditate in. And then there's a store down the street where I can get some fresh fruit and actually a green juice. Fantastic. So, just taking care of myself that way. Now it's kind of automatic, I wake up and I meditate, or I know that's kind of part of my flow. So it's really just, if you make that 100% commitment, it's non-negotiable, then there's no wiggle room, but it's also knowing that you obviously at any point can be flexible with it and pivot if it's not working, but if it is working for you, then why stop it?
Yeah, that's a great point. So we've gone on way longer than we intended to.
Hopefully people are still interested. Yeah.
What's that?
I said hopefully people are still with us and intrigued and interested.
I know. So I just wanted to ask one quick question.
Sure.
Because I got the same question from several people. I encourage people to write in with some questions that I could ask you.
Sure.
And the main one had to do with how do you find healthy food on the road. So, if your focus is those green juices or fruit in the morning or whatever, and, do you have some kind of, tricks for where to look for that stuff when you don't really know where you are or you're, thrown out of your normal place?
My experience has been around the United States, which is, much easier than some other places in the world. A lot of times what I'll do is, just go on Google Maps and use a bunch of keywords and kind of see which places keep popping up, whether it's organic or vegetarian or vegan or gluten-free or, grass-fed or raw, just whatever it is that you're looking for. Just kind of keep plugging these things in and see what places pop up. Farmers markets are a great place to go. But this is why I'm developing that show, is because it's when you travel, where are the really ridiculously healthy places to eat? And by healthy, I mean just, the things that everybody agrees on, it's not espousing any one approach to food. It's just no, we all agree that this stuff works for our bodies. So how do we find it? Where do we seek it out? Because most of the travel shows out there when it comes to food are just featuring the rich, indulgent, crazy things, which are great to try, but you can't sustain yourself for a week.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you're so right that it's easier in the U.S. I'm thinking, like, in Argentina, if I didn't live there, it's very hard to find a place in the morning where you can get anything besides, coffee and pastries.
Well, and
so you need to know where to go and, have kind of your own backup plan.
Right, and Jody Ettenberg, who is behind Legal Nomads, that's more her specialty is around the world, like safe and cheap, eating around the world, and a lot of times it involves talking to locals, looking at what carts are people lining up for? Are there only men in the cart, or are there women and children? Usually women and children. She says there's a little bit safer. And she just actually came out with a book, that talks more about that. So I think that would be a great supplement to everything we've been discussing. I am happy to do an audit with any of your listeners, and whether they're traveling or not. I mean, there's it's kind of this graphic I have on my site where it looks at me from different ages, and it's just like now as I said on that, is like I'm lighter, faster, healthier, and happier. And that's been my experience with traveling, but no travel required. You can still have that kind of experience even if you're more stationary or you're in the same place. It's just about what are you committed to. So I'd love to work with anyone in your audience to just optimize their days and take that Nomad's guide to health and happiness and wellness and be able to apply it to anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually I think it probably would be really helpful for a lot of people to get some of this stuff in place before they start making these other changes in their lifestyle, before they're actually on the road, so then it's easier to kind of make that transition.
Absolutely.
So you can find Nathan at nonstopawesomeness.me. Thanks
Awesome.
so much, Nathan.
Thank you, Amy. Really a pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.